Welcome back to Tottenham on Tour's world famous Christmas advent calendar. It is day number 14, 14, as they say in certain parts of the world. And we've got two amazing guests for you, joining myself and Mr. Daigle. Firstly, Mr. Daigle, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, mate. 14 is a good day. I actually got the 14th day of this advent calendar, and finally I got a human normal sleep. So I am pumped. I'm on my third coffee because I can, and the world is good.
Absolutely. And joining us, firstly, we've got Mr. Reginald back on the advent calendar. He's already done one on this lovely.
Yes.
And he is back to have salutations with you all. So how are you doing?
It's good. Yes. It's all good. It's all good. I popped my cherry, and so yeah, I'm back for more.
I don't know whether to apologise or to thank you. But last of all, we've got, and no means least, we've got Mr. Daniel from We Are Tottenham TV. How are you doing this morning, sir? Always great to have you on, and more Christmas fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I had a really good time in the last one, and I'm back again for more.
Back again. And we're going to start with the usual way we start this, the Christmas cracker joke. And we'll start with you, Mr. Daniel, because I think out of all the Christmas jokes we've done so far, yours is the best. So you are the champion currently. In my mind, you are the champion. So we'll start with you, buddy.
I think the last joke was, a bit of a high bar to set. So I don't know if I'm going to reach those bars that I reached last time. But it's another Arsenal-themed one, so let's go for it.
Yeah.
Why did aliens land at the Emirates?
I don't know.
Because the aliens like to land where there is no atmosphere.
Yay!
He's done it again. Ben Daniel, your jokes. You're on again, so you've got to complete the hat trick. You've got time. Rez, let's hear yours.
Well, can I do my dirty one first?
Most certainly.
Okay. So I bumped into a bit of a kinky girl last night, and she said to me, "Humiliate me." So I bought her an Arsenal shirt.
Whee!
Hey!
Oh, Ben's got a competition. Okay.
Oh.
Do you want my actual Christmas cracker joke?
Let's hear it.
Why is everyone so thirsty at the North Pole?
I don't know.
Why is everyone so thirsty at the North Pole?
Noel.
Oh dear.
Born is the king of White Hart Lane.
Well, you know what? It's very good that we've got.
I didn't think that was going to happen. But it worked.
We're going to carry on the music, and my joke is in honour of Ben's dog Lily. We've got a dog amongst us, so which Christmas carols do dogs like best?
Tell me,
I
Brian.
don't know, Brian. Which Christmas carols do dogs like best?
Hark the herald angels sing.
Sad.
Boom, boom.
Oh, that was painful.
You got it, mate. What, my singing or the joke?
The joke.
Okay, my singing's good. Good, thank you.
Singing's fine.
I actually think I've got one that's worse than that.
Oh my God!
You're going to be singing as well. You're going to be singing as well.
No. How does Christmas Day end?
Oh, I know this one. Go on.
With the letter Y.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, dear.
Oh,
Oh, dear. Well, you know what? The bad part is over. The corny part is over. Today, day 14, big day. Now you'll see the first player we're going to mention, people will start to realise players wore multiple shirts for Tottenham in their career. Mm-hmm. And when we're doing this, it's like playing Tetris. It's like if we put him in that day, we can't put this guy in. So there's been a bit of a jig around. Now, the first person we got is now a football presenter on BBC. What a picture I found. What a picture that is of Garth Crooks. Look at the stadium behind it. Look at the stadium behind it. Garth Crooks, Ben Kaufman. Jesus, confusing.
Yeah, Koff and Mr. Ben. We're going to have to do it. But yeah, Garth Crooks is not someone I ever got to watch in my life supporting Tottenham, but I've listened to Garth Crooks many a time, either on the BBC, and I've researched him, and he was a top striker for Tottenham. I mean, look at the trophy record itself: 2 FA Cups, 1 UEFA Cup. Not bad haul for not that many years. It was 81 to 85. Mr. Crooks was at the club, right? Or was he slightly longer? But that's a really good trophy haul, and what a really good striker, having a partnership with Archibald as well, who we've already done on this list.
Yep.
Just a really good striker, and that strike partnership is another. Talking about partnerships, we've talked many partnerships. Ben and Sim, Kane and Son, all these things, all these partnerships we're talking about. Klinsmann and Sheringham, and yeah, that's another one. Crooks and Archibald was an absolute top. It's a shame we couldn't keep them together for longer. Archibald went to Barcelona, of course. Yeah, brilliant striker, and he's always great. He's always a laugh, Garth Crooks, on Match of the Day. Yeah, always liked him.
Who are you passing the mic over to, Mr. Koff?
Oh, let's go to Mr. Resinald. Let's do it. Let's go. Oh, do you want to go next, Brian?
No, I'll go last as always. We'll be the bread in the sandwich.
Yeah, you go with Mr. Resinald for a bit of spice.
Well, another one who I didn't. I mean, I'm another who didn't get to see him play live. But the guy is known for being an amazing striker. I don't know if the record has been broken, but he's at one point held the club record for most consecutive scoring in most consecutive games. He scored 8 goals in 8 consecutive games. I don't know if that's still the club record or not, but he certainly held it for a while. Do you know what? One of my favorite things, or one of the things that sort of warms me to him, I don't know why, it's a very strange one. If you watch the iconic Ricky Villa goal in the FA Cup, if you watch, you watch Ricky make that sort of mazy run going past 5 different players and then putting it in. If you watch Garth Crooks, just as Ricky goes to strike the ball into the net, you see Garth do a little air kick with his leg as if he's sort of living it with him. It's really fun to watch. I don't know why, it just makes me smile when I watch it. You just see Garth Crooks air kick just as Ricky strikes the ball. It's brilliant. But yeah, I mean, that partnership again is one of the iconic ones. You know, you mentioned loads. We've had so many. You know, Sheringham and Klinsmann, Keenan Berbatov. You know, and another one is Archibald and Crooks. On one of the fan forums that I was on, don't really post there much anymore. One of the mods is actually called Archibald and Crooks. You know, it's known. It's a famous Spurs thing. So, yeah, he's definitely an icon for Spurs, I think.
Mr. Daniel, what do you know about Garth Crooks? Because like me, this is a bit before your time. But what's your thoughts on Mr. Crooks?
Yeah, to be honest, I can't really add much more than what you guys have said. I know that he had a fantastic relationship on the pitch with Steve Archibald. I've heard great things about Garth Crooks, but unfortunately, I never really got to see him much, and I haven't really seen much of him, of the highlights either. So unfortunately, out of all the ones that you've picked today, this one I'm very much least qualified to answer for and speak about, but I have heard very good things.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just say... again, there's a video. I'm going to try and find it and put the link in one of these where Terry Venables, the late great now Terry Venables, does a video. It's the first ever Spurs video I got where he picks his best Spurs 11 and they go through the goalkeeper's defense. And when it comes to talking about Garth Crooks and Archibald, but it's on Garth Crooks' time, he starts going on about partnerships and he goes, these two were like bacon and eggs. They just bang, off they go. But there is one goal. There's one goal, and it's not even the goal he scored in the 81 final. If I had to describe Garth Crooks in one thing, it would be blistering pace. If he was playing today, the speed we're talking proper top speeder. Go watch. People remember a UEFA Cup semi-final against Wolves, where Ricky Villa scores an absolute cracker. But just if you want to see his pace, go watch Garth Crooks' goal in that game where Glenn Hoddle plays one of the best passes, like in stride you'll ever see. But Garth Crooks is behind, or he's got 2 or 3 defenders in front of him, and it's just like Roadrunner. It is like Roadrunner. Don't get me wrong, the ball from God is brilliant, but if you want to see Garth Crooks and his pace, it is electric. A great player. Now, but there's quite a jump this year. It's not been quite staged in this day. We're going to, I would say, there's one more person on this list actually, but I think everyone's going to talk this. Welcome to the highlight.
Right?
Yeah, exactly, brother. I mean, Vava, look, this guy, because he's worth it. I almost said the Thierry.
Don't say it, Brian.
I almost said there's a few things that made it into the blooper. But yeah, all I say is because he was worth it. I mean, Kaufman, I'm going to go to you first and then choose the selection. But this one's going to take a while, I think.
Yeah, it's another player that wasn't really my time. The boys at the bottom and yourself can talk more about this because I was 4 at the time when Ginola played for us. It's that long ago, but
I have to say, Ben, before you do this, Ryan Isaacs winds me up when he says he weren't born before Toy Story. Yeah, and I'm like, oh my god, that blows my mind. But the fact that we're doing this and Ginola, you were 4.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my god, I'm old.
It's madness, right? But David Ginola is a player every single football fan, whether you're a Tottenham fan or remember down the road or Newcastle or even Accrington Stanley, who are they? Everyone should know David Ginola. He was an absolute world-class winger back when wingers were wingers in a way. But people will look at his stats now and say X was better than David Ginola. And you're like, no, he was not. No, he was not. He was an absolute godsend for Tottenham in an era where we played terrible football under Mr. George Graham, even though we won a trophy in that era. But he was a highlight. Like, give the ball to Ginola. He was just the guy. I believe he was part of the entertainers team, or maybe he wasn't part of the entertainers team. But just a wonderful, wonderful football player. The iconic moment where he takes his shirt off against Barnsley and it's got the wife beater after Maisie through all those players. He was just absolute class. And we should, I can't believe we've had a player like that and I didn't get to watch him. But there's many on that list, but absolutely sensational footballer.
Who are you handing over to, Koff?
We'll go to Reza. Let's go to Reza. What do you remember about David Ginola?
I mean, the Barnsley goal is the one that lives with me. A lot of people who witnessed it will talk about Ricky's goal at the FA Cup. Weirdly, Ginola's was also in the FA Cup against Barnsley. For me, that is the iconic Spurs moment. There is no other Spurs moment that lives in my memory. What can you say about David Ginola? I mean, the guy is one of is a footballing demigod, basically. Yeah. Right. The guy could do things. Look, everyone says that Harry Kane is one of, if not the best player in the world right now. And I would agree with them. There's a difference. Kane does not have the natural gift in as much abundance as the likes of Ginola has. That's that type of player. Harry Kane has become the best player in the world by ridiculous application and working his arse off. Ginola had oodles of natural talent, right? It was just, he was born to play football almost. And so he's unfortunate because he's been criticized by managers so often. Graham criticised him. John Gregory at Villa criticised him. Gerard Houllier, messed up his international career because of that game against France against Bulgaria. I mean, and every time when he would get back on the pitch, it would be just like, you know what? This is what I do. You can't find someone that can do what I can do. And yeah, he was magnificent. The one, again, another little story that reminds me is actually about Gascoigne. When Gascoigne joined Everton, the first training session, he sort of runs out with this floppy wig, and there's a video on YouTube that you can search for. So search Gascoigne Ginola Everton, and I'm sure it will come up. That's really funny. But yeah, again, demigod. There's nothing more you can say.
Go on. Look at he's had a wry smile waiting to speak here.
Yeah.
Off he goes. This is
Mr.
the reason.
Daniel.
I must admit, when we started doing the list, there's certain people that wanted to come on for certain days, and I knew that a certain man wanted to come on to talk about a certain person that wore this shirt. Over to you, Ben.
This is the man who made me fall in love with football, made me fall in love with Tottenham Hotspur. You know, he was at the club at a very turbulent time. He epitomized pretty much what Spurs fans and how not just because of him, but the style of play, his nickname was Le Magnifique, and that is exactly what describes him the best, right? The way he took to the game, you know, he could take on anyone. He was in a Spurs team that were terrible. And he used to just basically run around the whole pitch and do things completely on his own, saving us from relegation, dragging us on cup runs, dragging us to cup finals. We won the cup in '99. That FA Cup that run that year as well, when he scored that goal against Barnsley. I think that Leeds game was in that FA Cup run as well. I mentioned it in the previous show I did with you with Darren Anderton, but David Ginola scored an equally good goal that day with a volley from the edge of the box. And, you know, down there it says 13 goals. And I think every single one of those 13 goals were probably goal of the season candidates. That's how good this guy was. I mean, I had the pleasure of meeting this guy twice in my life. The second time, I think some of you guys were there. The first time was when he was actually playing for Spurs. Me, Sim, and my family went to stay up in a hotel in Leeds just before we played Leeds in a league game. I think we lost the game, but we stayed in the hotel with the team. And the night before the game, me and Sim were just pestering the staff at the hotel, going, "Where's Ginola staying? Where's Ginola staying? What room is he? What room is he?" And the one of the waiters at the hotel made the big mistake saying, "Well, I'm actually going to deliver something to his room now." So me and Sim basically just followed him wherever he went. And Ginola opens the door to his room, receiving some room service, and me and Sim are just like creeping around the corner just to get a little glimpse of him. And then he saw us, and he started having a go at the to my room and blah blah blah. But look, this guy. He basically epitomizes what Tottenham is all about. The way he plays the game, the way he held himself. I just love him so much. And he is literally the reason why I fell in love with Tottenham. And one of the goals that stands out for me is not that Barnsley goal, obviously everyone talks about, probably his best goal for Spurs. But one of the goals that, I don't know if you remember it was against Middlesbrough. I think it was at White Hart Lane, where he takes the ball out of the air, he beats a few men and just fizzes it into the bottom corner of the net. And he scored just so many goals like that. It was like just the norm, seeing him just beat a few men and just rifle it into the top or the bottom corner of the net. And when he left Spurs, it was the wrong time for him to leave Spurs. I'd never forgive George Graham for him leaving Spurs. And I said that to him the second time I met him when you guys were there. I said to him, "David, I've always wanted to say this to you, but I never forgave George Graham for selling you." And he goes, "Me too."
Mate, it's a shame because Hoddle would have loved him.
Yeah, 100%.
Hoddle would have loved him.
Hoddle would have loved him. And
I
another.
can imagine Ben and Sim going up to his room when he opened the doors. "We are Tottenham TV."
Well, I was about 10 at the time. So,
yeah.
But another thing from that night when we met him, we were all posing for a picture with him. There was a few of the Punjabi Spurs lot, me and Sim. I'm not sure if either of you were in the picture.
I was with you that night with quite a few of us.
I don't know. Yeah, you were. And we were all just posing there. And then he just starts singing randomly the song that Spurs fans used to sing for him on the terraces. It's a bit rude. I don't know if I can sing it here.
On, sing it.
Posh Bex is a slapper. She wears and when she's shagging Beckham, she thinks of Ginola. He started singing it. Everyone started singing it with him. And I just thought that was brilliant.
Mate, you know what, Ben? There's so many things I'm going to piggyback on what you said, but I'm going to start with what Rez said. There's certain things you look at in football, like when Beckham got sent off against Argentina, the way that our country reacted, the way that Rooney got reaction from when he did with Ronaldo at Portugal. I think if David Ginola sits down and is honest with him, he probably thinks that France mistake was the best thing that ever happened to him. because he came to England. Obviously, let's not forget at Newcastle when we bought him for whatever million. I was like,
2.5.
I was like, are Newcastle mad? I was like, what the hell are they doing? If there's a Spurs player, if you were building a Spurs player, look no further than David Ginola. That man is just simply incredible. And then when you mention the Barnsley goal, you mentioned the Middlesbrough goal. The first goal that comes to my mind is the goal he scored against Chelsea the first day in our Adidas kit, where he just runs past a couple of players, bends it, and funnily enough, he loved to take his shirt off. I can't think why, but I wonder why.
The best was when he took his shirt off, though, when what Rez was talking about when he was playing for Villa, right? When John Gregory was saying, "This guy's not fit enough. This guy's
That's
not
right."
fit enough. And then he takes off his shirt. What? I'm not fit enough. Yeah,
Properly toned, yeah.
Guy, listen, like you said, you look at teams. Matt Letizia, what he did with Southampton. You look, and I hate to mention this with Bergkamp and Lundberg when Lundberg just kept scoring. David Ginola single-handedly that season we won the cup. Destroyed every team. If it weren't for this man, we don't win that cup. He was quiet in the final because I think they put 3 men on him.
Yeah.
But that season, I think we finished bottom half of the league, won a cup. He got Player of the Year, Player Writer of the Year. I always say my biggest regret as a Spurs fan was never ever seeing Gareth Bale live ever. One of my biggest privileges was watching as much of this man as I got to watch, and there's we had it with Berbatov, but you know how good a player is when they used to have a strategy to say, David Ginola, don't even bother defending. Just stay wherever you want. So when we get the ball, we can give it. There was literally, when we were attacking, there was 11 men attacking. When we're defending, it was like, David, just do what you do. Go where you go.
Yeah.
Like Ben said, you look at this man. He left too early. Obviously, he had his heart attack, his scare, and thank God he's fully fit. And you go back to, this is a man that used to smoke or still does smoke like a chimney, and I can vouch for that because when we were at the Ginola night, me and Danny Kiriakou kept going downstairs for a cigarette, and then we got towards the security guard. He goes, "No, listen, there's a fire escape there. Just go through this door here." Yeah. So we're like, okay. Me and Danny are out having a cigarette. The door opens, and it was like stars in their eyes. And tonight, Matthew, where I'm going to be, and David Ginola just comes in, sparks up. And starts.
What was he smoking in the room before as well? All the steam was he just followed him out.
Chatted with us, and it was just like me and Dad. We were at an evening with Ginola, and me and Danny got about 10 minutes. Then people clocked where he was, and then that fire escape. Let's just say if the fire brigade had come, there would have been a fire and safety alert or health and safety alert about the fire escape. But you talk about him singing as well, Ben. I don't know if anyone's seen it when he's on TalkSport. He loves Only Fools and Horses. He loves Only Fools and Horses. And if you type in YouTube, Ginola sings Only Fools and Horses, he's live on TalkSport talking about it. He's going, Rodney, you plonk, and in a French accent. It's very, very funny to hear. But,
Rodney, you plonker.
Yeah, mate. But this guy, an artist, you look at the Barnsley goal. There's another goal at Watford where he takes on about 6-7 players at home, and he just pretends to shoot about 4 or 5. Man, this guy, and you got to remember as well, Ben. Final thing I'll say about it: that Leeds game, not only did he score that incredible volley, he probably scored, in my opinion, the most famous non-Spurs goal. Do you remember when he takes on about 6 players, shoots, and the keeper saves it, and it hits the post, but Graham thinks it's gone in. Yeah. So they go to Jules Graham. He's out celebrating it like it's a goal. Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, it's not a goal.
I saw there was one against Man United as well, wasn't there?
Oh, mate, he said, the goals against United. I think Manchester United must have thought, literally, Ginola was one of those players. When players have a game against someone, Manchester United and David Ginola, there's a goal where he's crossing and he just goes like that to the camera, doesn't he? I can't remember who scored the header, but my God, what a player. And do you know what? When we talk about bringing people back into the football club, you talk about Rafa van der Vaart and players that have left the club that just bleed and will just say anything like Tottenham. Yeah. This man, my God. But you know what? We're going to move on. And this player I wanted this player to stay longer. In fact, I wanted us to sign this player earlier. Although he may have played for the enemy, I loved Gus Poyet. Gus Poyet. I mean, Ben, are we getting to Mr. Kaufman? Are we getting to your era now?
Yeah, it is. I grew up watching Gus Poyet. I love that. I was in primary school at that time, so it's got very fond memories of my first years of supporting Tottenham. And he was a great little player, Gus Poyet. He worked his absolute socks off every single game. He was a real fighter on the pitch. Just a brilliant all-round player. A few goals here and there, but really fond memories as a child watching Gus Poyet. That team was a very decent little team under Martin Jol. And what a great kit. I love that kit, even though they weren't the most comfortable because they were so stretchy, those Kappa kits, if you ever remember those. Yes. I love that kit. That whole era of the shackles coming off under Martin Jol, and we had Jacques Santini as well there. But that whole era of him being there was just brilliant, and definitely liked Gus Poyet quite a bit. And the record doesn't speak how good a player he was for Tottenham. He wasn't here long enough. There's another one that just was not here. Maybe it's just the theme of this video, players that weren't here long enough or didn't do the business long enough. But we'll go to Rez on Gus Poyet. What do you think of Gus Poyet and his time at the club?
He was a bit of a favourite of mine, actually. I mean, I at that time I was starting to get into football more, and I knew that he was a Chelsea player, and he did very well for them. He's one of their sort of standout players from the early Abramovich era. Abramovich era. Yeah, the era. I'm going to call it an era. Okay, it's not an era anymore. Yeah, they're not called eras anymore. They're called areas. And so when we got him, I thought, I was excited by the signing. I was excited that he was coming to Spurs. I felt that he was a good player. He was. The thing about Gus was that he and it was later confirmed when he sort of took up assistant manager and also interim manager duties for a while. He had a nice personality as well. He seemed like a nice guy. And so, humorous, had a sense of humor. He's just one of those players that I think, again, wasn't here all that long. He wasn't with us for too long. So it's difficult to be able to sort of state how much of a contribution he made. But again, it was in that period where, we were in the sort of doldrums a little bit. We still hadn't quite got to, the sort of early 2000s where we start to actually get to higher league positions. I again, a good player. Really enjoyed him. It's the other stuff around him that I always notice about stuff like that, like stuff like being sacked by Brighton on television, stuff like that. I mean, in a way, I sort of I didn't see it live, but I saw it afterwards. It was sort of like, why would you do that to one of your pundits, one of your guests? As allegedly Brighton sacked him, didn't let him know, didn't text him, didn't phone him, nothing like that. They released a statement, and one of the BBC producers basically printed it out and handed it to, I think it was Mark Chapman, who read it and then gave it to Gus to read at half-time in an international match.
Oh, half-time, Rez. We seem to have a theme of half-time sackings.
That's true, yeah, absolutely. Although this was Brighton, it wasn't us. We didn't sack him at half-time. But yeah, it was that sort of thing. I just thought, why would you do that? Why would you A, sack him at half-time, and B, why would you tell the person? At least wait until the show's finished and then tell him, or wait for him to maybe check his phone or get a call from his agent or something. Don't just dump it on him. Anyway, media, what can you do? But yeah, Gus, great guy. Got nothing bad to say about him. He started a bit slowly. I think he got sent off in his first match or something, or something like that. But yeah, a good Spurs player, and got nothing bad to say about him.
Ben,
Mr. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, I did love Gus Poyet. I really did. Again, he was in like an era. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he was Glenn Hoddle's first or second signing as Spurs manager. Yeah. And when we did sign him, 33 years old, coming from Chelsea, I thought, what are we doing here? This guy's at the end of his career. Why are we signing this guy from Chelsea? And it went completely the other way. He put in such a shift as a Spurs player. I think one season he was even our top goal scorer in the Premier League with 13 or 14 goals. And that Spurs season, I think, when he joined us, we actually beat Chelsea 5-1 in a League Cup semi-final. And so it kind of came all full circle from me thinking, why are we signing a Chelsea guy coming to the end of his career? And then he was part of the team that absolutely tore Chelsea apart in that semi-final. Unfortunately, we did go on to lose the final to Blackburn.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
But I think that he gave us some great moments in the Spurs shirt. I remember that lob from like 30, 35 yards. I think, was it against Derby?
Mate, you have just taken exactly the first thing I was going to say.
Oh,
so that goal just stands out to me like in my head massively. And there was another one there where he just like did a diving header, which he was like pretty much on the ground. It just like that's like vividly in my mind. I can't remember who it was against.
He was a fighter.
Say again.
He was a fighter, that man.
Oh, 100%. 100%. He brought that fighting energy to that Spurs midfield, and he was pretty much one of our best players, if not our best player, over like a 2-year stretch from when he was here. So I can't give him enough credit. And to come to Spurs as a 33-year-old and make an impact like he did, I think you got to give him so much credit.
I have to say, first of all, like Ben said, first of all, the way Ben said about Derby, I've said to Ben before, I think we've been electronically tagged or something because we have got this kind of psychopathic connection.
Psychic, or telepathic.
That is a different show.
This will not be used in evidence in court.
That is a different show. That's a completely different conversation that will not make its way to Yaff and Canada.
Me and Brian have a psychotic energy between us.
We do.
All right, I'm just getting a breaking news from Tottenham on tour. Brian Dagor announces psychopathy. Okay.
So first of all, Gus Poyet, I think, is one of the very few players, when you look at it, that make the journey across these two teams and are still respected and loved by both teams. Mm-hmm. There's very few people that do it. He did it. I had the privilege of being at the game when he scored that lob against Derby. But the biggest memory he'll ever give me is I was there on a certain person's return to White Hart Lane with the most toxic atmosphere I have ever. I mean, I've been there and helped contribute to Levy out, blah, blah, blah. For that return, I have never, and I don't think I ever will at Tottenham, see what I saw that day. We were about to lose 1-0, and a certain man came to save the day. And I will thank, because can you imagine if that game had ended with them winning? That of all games. So Gus Poyet to do that, thank you, sir. And do you know what? There's two icons for number 14, isn't there, really? There's two. We've spoken about one, and then you can't mention the word 14, an icon, without a certain Luka Modric. I'm going to be back in 2 seconds. Nature calls, but Brian Kaufman, over to you.
It's lucky for me because I'll probably really incense him. Luka Modric is probably the best ever player to play for Tottenham Hotspur. Just decorated. 5 Champions Leagues, a Ballon d'Or, multiple Copa del Reys, multiple league titles. This man is my uncle used to say when Gareth Bale left, and we talked about it a few years later, because I loved Gareth. But Gareth Bale was my hero when he was originally at the club. But my uncle used to say, there's only one player we missed out of those two that left, and it was Luka Modric. He was absolutely sensational. He is, like, if you think of a world-class footballer, like actual world-class, the word world-class is bandied about a lot and used vastly, overly too much. This man is absolutely world-class. Top 3 in the world, and for many, many years was the best midfielder in the world. Still doing it now at 38. 38 in Champions League football matches, running games of football. Absolutely world class. And probably not the best player to ever play in a Tottenham shirt, but as a player in general, probably the best player to ever play for Tottenham. Like, decorated 5 Champions Leagues. You can't really imagine if we won one Champions League, we'd talk about it for 30, 40 years. To win 5 and 3 back-to-back, 3 in a row, 3 Champions Leagues in a row, being the general of the midfield under Ancelotti, Zidane and Ancelotti. What a footballer. What an absolute god-tier footballer that it was, Luka Modric. Came to us, was a skinny boy, and like people try and compare Brian Hill to him, which is insulting, really. But in 1 year, he bulked up immediately. As soon as Harry Redknapp became his manager, and he was on the left at that time in that first year, in that roaming role. The moment he started playing midfield behind Van der Vaart and next to Palacios and Sandro and Huddleston in many different teams, this guy was just unbelievable. And you can't really say enough of him. We could talk all day, just like we've talked about all day with Ginola. This was my first ever time seeing a world-class footballer. What a player. What a player. We'll start with Mr. Rez. What was your memories of Luka Modric?
In a weird way, Luka Modric never impacted on me that much, I have to say. Everything that I will say about him has always been through the lens of analysis rather than actually watching him play, apart from one thing, which actually turned out to be his very last goal for Spurs, because it was on my birthday. We beat Bolton 4-1 away.
Oh, what a goal.
He scored an amazing volley, which, I still remember. But yeah, it was, you can't look at Luka Modric and not believe that he is one of the best footballers of all time so far, anyway. Yeah. Right?
Top 10.
As you say, Ben, he's 38 and he's still playing at that level. And you look at his history as well. I mean, this was a boy who lived as a refugee, and the football academy, the sports academy he went to, his parents and his family had to sort of scrape the money together to send him there. And eventually, the coach that he worked for, that he worked under, was the one who sort of arranged for him to go to Dinamo Zagreb, which is where he started his career. And weirdly, this is one of the things. Let's say, for instance, a club wanted to buy Luka Modric right now. I mean, how much would he cost a club if you were doing a full transfer nowadays? 50 million for a 38-year-old?
I'd say 30 million at his age.
30 million. Let's say 30 million, right, for a 38-year-old, right? He has never transferred anywhere for more than, or for anything less than, for anything more than 30 million pounds, right? All of his transfers. And yet you look at players being, over 100 million nowadays, right? An absolutely amazing player. The one memory that lives in my thing is not actually playing for Spurs, apart from that goal, was that outside of the foot cross type thing that he passed. I've forgotten who it was. Benzema, was it, to score to win the Champions League for Real Madrid a couple of seasons ago? I mean, come on. You've got to be unbelievably confident of your skill in the first place, and have the skill to be able to do that. And he's in his late 30s. How many players who aren't even goalkeepers are still playing at that level at that age? The guy is amazing. He managed to topple the Ronaldo, Messi, monopoly, or duopoly as it should be called, of the Ballon d'Or. Rightly, just an amazing. He's a phenom. He really is amazing.
Mr. Daniel.
I love this man. And I remember so clearly when we signed him as well. I mean, it got announced on like a Friday night at like 11, 12 o'clock at night for some strange reason. And that was back in the days before social media and all that. So you had to be on the Spurs website to know if he had signed or not. And I remember at like 11 o'clock or midnight, me and Sim used to stay in rooms next door to each other in a kind of loft. And our window. If I poked my head out the window and he poked his head out the window, we could basically see each other, right? And I can't remember who it was, but someone poked their head out the window and goes, I don't know if I was going Sim, or he was going Ben. And then we both poke our heads out the window and he goes, Luka Modric is signed for Spurs. and he wasn't that known at the time coming from Dynamo Zagreb, but I think because of our football manager days and all this kind of stuff, we kind of knew who he was, and he always became one of these great midfielders in these games. And he came in, I think, was it under Juan de Ramos? I think he came in, and he kept being shunted out to the left wing, the right wing, and he didn't really get to grips with Spurs, and he found it quite hard to make the adjustment at first. And then Harry Redknapp came in, put him in the centre of midfield, and the kind of rest is history. And Arsene Wenger was famously quoted saying, "Oh, this guy's too small for the Premier League. He'll never make it." And he ended up being one of the best players that ever graced football, never mind the Premier League. And you know, some of the goals he scored, I remember, were just absolutely brilliant. I do remember like this diving header he scored against Chelsea as well at White Hart Lane.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty much on the floor. And then he puts that goal in the back of the net. I remember one volley or from the outside of his foot that like hit the top corner. Can't exactly remember who it was. Was it against
Liverpool?
Bolton?
That goal against Liverpool.
Bolton or Liverpool?
Just mention my one again. Okay, we'll do it. There's so many. Let's go.
But no, I mean, this guy was just a phenomenon. He really was. And when we did sign him, nobody could have expected him to be as good as he actually was, even the most optimistic of Spurs fans. And I'm not sure you guys are going to like this, what I'm about to say on this channel, but I've got to give credit to Daniel Levy, actually, in this one.
Oh, God.
Hold on. I'll come to that.
No, go on.
I'm being serious here. I've got to give credit to Daniel Levy in the way he left the club, because he could have gone to Chelsea the year before. He could have gone to Chelsea for more money, and Daniel Levy rejected it and said, "You're not leaving. You're not going to Chelsea, and we're going to take less money for you to go to Real Madrid next year." So I'm sorry, but he's got to have credit for that.
He actually helped him out in his career because he wouldn't.
You know what?
He did. Although I want to interject here. I do this. This is one of my favorite. It's not a favorite. It's terrible, but it's one of the stories that I like to tell. Right. I don't know how true it is, but you can well believe it. Allegedly, Dinamo Zagreb asked when they asked for Luka when the transfer was done, they asked as part of the deal for 6 Tottenham shirts, right? Daniel Levy promptly reduced the payment that Spurs were to make to Dinamo Zagreb by the cost of those shirts, right? That for me demonstrates why I feel the way I feel about Daniel Levy, right? I'm not going to expand on it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what I will say,
but yeah, you've got to give him credit for blocking Modric to Chelsea. I do agree, absolutely.
I'm going to make sure I say this right. This is again me and Ben's telepathic. See, I did it right that time. I only took 2 days. I will always credit that man where it deserves. Like I said, if I ever get divorced from Milana, which will never happen, I want Daniel Levy to handle my divorce because I'll get everything. She'll get nothing. I'll get this house. I'll get everything.
I don't think you'll get anything, Brian, with your track record.
Yeah. Right, moving on. Anyway, what he did there was fantastic, and I'm going to kind of go backwards with Luka Modric because we've started there. Luka Modric showed every single professional footballer how to act when he didn't get the move to Chelsea. Rather than throw your toys out the pram and go, "Oh, I refuse to play, I'm going to act like a bitch," he said, "All right, you've said I'll give you a year." A gentleman's agreement that actually was honoured. Who thought of it? Yeah. And then he went on and gave Spurs for the first 6 months of that season, he was untouchable. Untouchable. You mentioned that Liverpool goal. That's the first goal he scored coming back from not getting his Chelsea move.
Yeah.
He ran. Basically, if Modric turned up, Spurs turned up. That's how good he was and how vital he was. He was, like you said, Rez, the outstep of the foot pass was like, you think about certain people that have got an iconic thing in football, like they've got their key attribute. Luka Modric, that outstep of the foot pass was just like a radar. But I have to say, going back to where Ben started, like when Ben and Sim were screaming out the window because of their football manager knowledge, I didn't know him. I didn't know. I wasn't like, oh, who's this guy we signed? I just didn't know who he was.
No.
And I remember being in a pub in Oakwood, and they had a Moody channel, so I got to see his first pre-season game against Celtic. I can't remember where we were playing, in Portugal or somewhere we were playing, and Luka Modric started. Never in my life had I seen up until then a guy hold on to the ball and dictate a game.
Yeah.
All right, the pre-season friendly, it was like peak Moussa Dembele just batting people off. Any tight space, he'd find his way out of it. I had never seen it. My first impression of watching a player on their debut, Luka Modric, is by far the best player I've ever seen on their debut. By a country mile. He was exquisite. And like you said, playing at the left, we couldn't find it. Harry Redknapp has done some crazy things in his time, and we all know that. Moving him into central midfield may have looked crazy.
It was genius.
But this was an absolute stroke of genius. And you know what? If only we had matched his ambitions as many others, who knows where we would have been? Because this man...
One more story about Luke. I remember because when I watched the Euros, because England weren't in the Euros that year in 2008. And I can't remember. It was one of the games Luka Modric played, and I was in the Newport Bay Hotel in Disney, and the cross he made in that game for one of their like extra time goals. That again, not outside, just a loop. Just absolutely perfect. He was an absolute magician. I didn't know him at the time as well because I was very young at that time. But I just like, does he play for Tottenham? He's going to play for Tottenham. He was an absolute, and no one can really argue with me. I said it, and said it. Luckily, when you were off, Brian, that this is probably the best player to ever play for Tottenham as a trophy-winning player. No other player has won that many major trophies.
But Gareth Bale? Gareth Bale's up there.
He is, but Luka Modric won all of them.
Yeah, there you go. That's true.
And he
Do you know what?
Bale could win that league title when he was out of the team. Modric was still the general of that team.
Yeah, you're right.
Speaking of
the Ballon d'Or in the Messi and Ronaldo era is unheard of, unthinkable.
And speaking of internationals, though, this is the other thing as well. He's the only player to have appeared in both the Euros and the World Cup in 3 different decades.
Yeah,
right.
Not just that. You look at it. What we talk about Spurs and Madrid. Look what he's done for Croatia.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. They do have a good team. They're a solid team. But this man has dragged them.
He had the most minutes. He had the most minutes of any player in the 2018 World Cup.
He's insane. So as you know, that's 4 out of the 5. 2 of them have been.
Oh, we're coming to the real god of the lot, aren't we?
This one will be a very, very short analysis.
We need to get prepared because this guy's just like this is Modric here, right? And then this guy's like all the way up here, you know. I mean,
I've just got. I'm going to introduce this guy with this song because I loved this player. It's time for Lewis Holt. I love this man. I love him. Ben Kaufman, over to you.
Yeah. I've only got one fond memory of Lewis Holtby, and I was in the away end when he scored that stoppage time winner against Fulham. But I remember I remember when we signed him early because we were going to get him on a free transfer, and we actually paid £1.25 million to get him early, and he was such a disappointment. He worked his ass off. He really cared about trying to be good for Tottenham. But he was just not good. He was the captain of the German under-21 side. So you thought, this kid has got something. Surely, if you're the captain of Germany at any age, you should be like thinking this is going to be a decent player. But he's playing for Holston, so at least he's still connected with Tottenham at the moment. But he's just not a good football player. I felt really sorry when your crowning moment is scoring 1 goal and then 2-foot tackling the Howard Webb. I've done anything in your career, can you? But Yeah, Lewis Holtby, what a disappointment. What a disappointment. But he was a good lad. If you ever met him in the street, I reckon he'd be a really good lad. But Mr. Rez, what's your thoughts on Lewis Holtby that's ending with a bang?
I think you're being incredibly harsh on him, right? He wasn't that bad, right? I mean, you compare Lewis Holtby with Gregor's Rajiak, for instance, you know, Andy Sinton, for instance, you know, he wasn't that bad. He just didn't really do it for us much. I think
he was much better than Jason Dezelle, wasn't he?
Oh, Jason Dezelle, for instance, exactly. You know, I mean, yeah, he wasn't. He didn't really set the world alight at Spurs. Agreed, granted. That said, I think it was a case of, I mean, we've discussed, I mean, you discussed it I'll say this morning. It wasn't this morning, it was earlier, with players that, you know, have to suffer managerial change and stuff like that. It's just testament to the way that we've been doing business for the last 20 odd years. I think this is a player that could have done better. He certainly spent a lot of time at Hamburger SV, where they, you know, he made 120 odd appearances for them. So he's not by any stretch of the imagination a bad footballer, just maybe not the right one for us. The reason I know this actually, the reason we brought him in early as well was because Sandro got injured and he was brought in to replace, and he wasn't really that kind of replacement. He was the wrong transfer to make, I think, at the time. And so it was a mess of circumstances. But if I wanted to sum up Lewis Holtby's career at Spurs, it's very simple. One word: meh. That's it.
Yeah, for me, when we signed Lewis Holtby, I was actually really excited of what he was going to bring to Spurs, to be honest. I think that he had a couple of successful loan spells in the Bundesliga from Schalke, and he was actually a young up-and-coming player that had the world at his feet at that time, where, you know, people were thinking that he was going to become a fairly big player. And when we did kind of get him early, I was actually really excited. I was like, come on, we've got him early. We've got him for the rest of the season. And look, what Lewis Holtby did bring to Spurs was passion, energy. It's just a shame that he didn't have the quality to match it, unfortunately. Yeah. That one moment at Fulham that you were talking about, I was also there at that away end. It was carnage when he did score. The song was being repeated over and over and over again that night. And look, he kind of just massively flattered to deceive, and to see where his career has gone after leaving Spurs. You know, a couple of loan spells at Fulham and Hamburg, been playing for Blackburn and now at Holston. I mean, it's just such a shame when the kind of reputation that he did have coming through the ranks in Germany, because he kind of got what it meant to be a Spurs player with his kind of passion and his energy, but he just couldn't match it with his football application on the football pitch, which was a massive shame for me, to be honest, because like I said, I was really excited to see him play, but that excitement quickly ran out, unfortunately.
Do you know what? I'm not getting the Holtby hate. I'm not getting, not the Holtby hate.
There's no hatred. There's no hatred.
No, that's what I just said. I said it's not hatred. I love this guy. I love him. I'm the big controversial. Listen, I think Ben's right. He flattered to deceive. I just used to love it. I think it was wrong manager, wrong time for him. I think if we had a certain Postecoglou or Postecoglou-esque manager, he would have shined brighter than any diamond.
Didn't Poch sell him though?
Poch did, but that's what you got to remember what he was doing there. He wanted to rip out the old guard. I think if we had been fairly new, it may have been different. I love him. I loved him. If I look at players that didn't quite make it, but I really wish they did, this man is very, 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 very high up. Can I
just interject very quickly? One thing you've got to also bear in mind about Lewis Holtby is that he fell out of favour under Tim Sherwood, right? So that should give you a little bit of a nuance as to how good a footballer he may or may not have been, is the fact that Tim Sherwood rejected him. So you can't really, that's why he left.
There's that, but I will say in closing, and then we'll wrap this one up, is I wasn't there for Fulham. I was there for the Howard Webb tackle and Ledley King's testimonial.
That was
Yes.
his best game in his
Brilliant.
first shirt. That was his best game.
Whoa, Ben. Whoa. Before we go into war over Lewis Holtby, there's bigger wars to have. We'll
Have
wrap it
this
up.
war. Have the war, and then have another one.
It's
It's
Christmas.
fine.
It's Christmas. Remember, do they know it's Christmas time?
Yeah.
Mr. Daniel, Ben, brother, thank you very, very much for joining us. We let everyone have a little plug. Mothership, speak.
Where can we find you?
Yeah.
Find me over at We Are Tottenham TV. Daily content coming out there, Spurs related. So thanks for having me on today. I've really enjoyed this one.
Good. Rez, well, obviously, you're with us again Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Where can people find you right now?
Generally hanging around on street corners when Kim isn't around to supervise me. You know, trying out different straitjackets in preparation, and generally pulling what little hair I have left in my head out at some of the things that one sees from salty fans throughout the world. I notice that there's been a recent game. Obviously, this is recorded, so but there's a recent game in which a certain Captain Lego said nothing about the standard of refereeing. Things like that exercise me on a daily basis, and so if you hear screams, it's probably me.
Okay.
There you go. What have we got coming up on Tottenham on Tour before Ben speaks about the coffee company? Every single day, cockle-doodle-doo. Andrew Management day after match days, and of course the advent calendar for another 9 days, and then a Christmas Day bonanza.
Yeah. Woohoo.
10 days. 10 days. 10.
No, 14.
Yeah,
So
15,
24
16,
days.
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24.
Why'd you do this? Why?
Because I'm your lawyer.
Yes,
Yeah.
but you're meant to get me out of trouble, not get me into it.
Nah, he can get you into
Damn.
trouble as well.
Damn.
He's not earned his fee today, but you can find me over at the Coffee Company, weekday streams, mental health, chilling, movies, sometimes making tasty gingerbread syrups. You never know with the Coffee Company what's going to happen. But yeah, get over there. It's in the name. I'm going to do the Johnny, but I'm doing it with a pen for a bit more class.
That's sophistication. That's sophistication.
Look at that sophistication. But from all of us over at Tottenham on Tour, we wish you an amazing rest of the holiday season. Be spoiled, have loads of food, and have a good time. Thank you all so much for watching. Merry Christmas, and come on, you Spurs.
Kind of Spurs.
Come on, you.